like to welcome everyone to Mesa Verde, the home of the Anasazis. This is the city center we're here at, and I'm excited to show you around. So let's enjoy the video, and we're going to be talking all about the Anasazis and these cliff dwellings here at Mesa Verde National Park in the United States. This here is the biggest structure that is in all of North America that is left over, and it's in actually a great condition. So let's check it out, and let's have a great day here at Mesa Verde National Park. Enjoy the video. Here at the Cliff Palace, the center of the Anasazi civilization, there was over 150 rooms. It started probably just in the very back where the water was. Now, with the sandstone and the way the water works, there's actually dripping water coming through the rocks. And in this wonderful location, they used to live on top of the rock, and they would build their houses there, and it was more like pit houses where they dig in and they'd build up. But then they eventually moved down into these very fortified locations. This all happened from about 900 to 1200. And when you're thinking about those years, it's amazing to think about a civilization having 150 rooms. They had areas that are probably guessed to be hotels, restaurants, and a beautiful view of the city. It's incredible to think about that as an ancient civilization and how advanced they were. So it's kind of fun to kind of just view it and check it out, and I'll bring you around to all these different civilization centers and areas in this general area. There's over 200 different locations where there was cliff dwellings within a 200-mile radius of this center location, which was often thought of as a trade location or as maybe a cultural center. Even it was just thought of as a big city. Think of going downtown, whatever city it is, this was their downtown. This is where they came to trade whatever their arts were, whatever their food, whatever their skill was. This is it. Enjoy Cliff Palace. So I wanted to bring up some good points about our ability to just turn on a faucet and get water. Now, for the Anasazi people and these Puebloan houses, it's something where there are just faucets to turn on to get water. Because of the sandstone and the way it works with the way the sandstone kind of brings water through it, they would have some natural areas where the sandstone would actually collect the water, and then they would be able to get it from there. So they don't have these huge water bottles, but what do they store their water in? Well, they store their water in pottery. And when you think of the artisans and the people that made the crafts of that time, it was kind of an essential thing to be good at it. Because if you have a pot full of water and it hasn't rained for a long time and you're thirsty, well, guess what? There's no faucet to go turn on. You can't just drink water. You would have to have a great way of storing it, which is the pots that they created. Now, like anything, the aesthetic beauty came into play. So with the people that were creating the pots, well, they would barter them and they would trade them for things like food and for things, other religious things and all these crazy things that people would be trading and bartering, animal meat for a pot. So if you were an artist and you created the pot, well, you would want to make it as good as possible, right? So what you would do is you would make it as beautiful as you could so that it would get the top trade. So instead of trading it for a squirrel, you could trade it for a whole entire, winter's worth of food. So these artisans would create these intricate, beautiful designs on the sides of the pot, because then it would be worth more to the people that they were trading for. that's just something interesting I wanted to bring up about the pottery and the artisans of the time that were kind of working on their skill and their craft, which were these pots. So in this video, I'll refer to them as the Anasazis. That's the most commonly referred to name, but they're also actually the native people in this area would prefer if you call them the Puebloan people. That's because Anasazi, actually the root word means ancient enemies. And they don't like to think of themselves as enemies. They want to look back at their ancestors and think of them as peaceful people. There's a lot of speculation with no written language about what happened. Why did they build here? But there's certain things you know. You know that it's a great place where you can have protection from the sun. It can be 110 degrees in the sun. At the back of the cave, it'll be a comfortable 70. Think about storing food and things like that. An ancient refrigerator, literally. It's really fun to think about all the different lives that these people lived. They have these unique structures that they lived in. What were all these people doing here? Were they mostly hunters? I think it was such an advanced civilization that they had these awesome things that they did. They would draw on the walls. They would draw their life story. But because we don't exactly know, all we have is these pictures to kind of imagine what their life is. What brought them out of here? Why did they eventually leave? All we know is by looking at a tree bark, you can see that there was a wonderful amount of moisture in the area when they moved here. And they stayed here for those hundreds of years. There was a lot of moisture. Around the time when they were leaving, 1200 AD, the moisture actually soaked up and the tree rings are really small, which means that it was a drought. Not a super bad drought, but a drought indeed. There's also definite significance in religious beliefs. What religion did they have? What were they believing in? What happened when they left? Certain people speculate that it might be cannibalism, and there's certain evidence outside of this village that there was cannibalism happening. Did that maybe come in as invaders and hence making the people leave? All these fun things to think about, but view yourself. Which one would be your room? Would you have the wonderful view of the canyon? Think about that. That's kind of cool. What does your house look like now? Does it look like this? Is it made of stone? Is it made of brick? Is it made of more modern day supplies? It's kind of fun to envision yourself in these spaces and what that might mean. Well, enjoy this place. We're going to be moving on actually to a very cool residence in a hillside next. So I hope you enjoyed the palace here and also kind of seeing this cultural center of the Puebloan people, or the Anasazis. So, I'm going to show you the balcony house now. The balcony house is an infamous part of Mesa Verde. It's a wonderful location that you can really see things that are still intact. So I'm going to show you what it was like to be in the dwellings of the Anasazi, to live and walk a day in their shoes. It won't be a full day, it will actually probably be about just a couple minutes. But you're going to spiral up into their house from a 35 feet tall ladder. You're going to experience what it's like to live on such an interesting location. That's what I'm about to show you here at the balcony house. Enjoy. And I'm excited. You know, I'm excited to kind of get in the minds of the Anasazis by taking and getting inside of their homes. Just like going inside your home would bring me into your mindset and what your family's like and what your room is like. If it's a crazy mess, I probably know that you're maybe a little less organized than the person who have a perfectly clean room. So let's go into a room of the Anasazis. Let's see what they're like. Let's get to know them. Come with me on this journey to the balcony house. So here at the actual house, you can see original paint that's behind me, and also these different rooms and these different places that they would actually stay, and they would do their different duties, and their, that would be where they would sleep. It's amazing to see the space, and it's actually a pretty large space. But also, when you think of these as doorways, they aren't very large in comparison to our average, modern day huge screen door. It's more like a little way to get in, and then you'd probably actually pull a drape of some sort of an animal fur over it. But one fun thing with these colors is you can almost imagine it. Like, you can imagine you putting whatever it is above your doorway, like painting it on some crazy slogan or something like that. They made these personal for them, and they made them very beautiful. Today you can just see remnants of that, but it's one of those things where it's just exciting that, even back then, the aesthetic beauty was so important. That beauty that you all are looking for when you're designing your cell phone cover. They designed their house with that beauty, and everything was personal on that same level. So let's show you around more of this house. Space here. There's not a roof on it right now. I'll show you an example of that. But this is where there would be an actual roof on the top, and there'd be a hole in the center. Then they'd have a ladder coming from that hole in the center, going down to the middle of the room. This would be a wonderful place in the winter where some of these structures that they would live in the summer with the windows and things like that won't be as warm as sleeping in the ground. So they would actually have these in about 10 people per area would sleep in there with a little fire. Wonderful place to stay warm. Have that amenity of, a place where you can actually relax and get a good night of sleep, and then come back and, build another thing. But it's kind of fun to see where they actually slept in the wintertime and kept warm. All right, coming down into a kiva. This is their ancient room. It's actually been reconstructed, but when you see those barrel-shaped circular rooms, this is actually what it would be like inside. As you can see, it's dark, so they would probably have some sort of a candle structure, or they'd actually usually have a fire pit right in the middle, and then with the hole, they would have a smoke kind of like a chimney. Yeah, it's kind of fun to see how it looks inside, and there'd be about 10 people, 12 people per kiva, and that's actually the word that it's referred to, but it's kind of fun to see the stone structure. It's actually anticipated that this and the stone on top of it weighs about a ton, but because of their ability to move and work with the wood and figure out what would hold the most weight, they were able to construct this kiva. So that's what a kiva is. Here in the primary entrance and exit to the house, you can see it's a little tight, which is awesome. Means less people are going to get in, steal your stuff, even find you. Primary entrance, I am exiting. As I'm leaving the balcony house, I kind of view myself sitting here, eating supper, eating some maize, having some corn, enjoying myself. And I realize it's really not a bad view. They had it all figured out. Why don't you check out the view? See if you agree. Here at the Spruce Tree Place. It's just kind of like an apartment building, not as big as the last palace, but bigger than the balcony house. The average lifespan of Anasazi person was about 35 years. With their diet and without medicine and things like that, they would usually die off pretty quickly. So 35-year life, that's not very long. When you think about this sort of a structure, it would take about 80 years to complete from the back to the finish. So that's like 3 generations. What they ate, the average meal would consist of a lot of corn, squash. They domesticated chickens and turkeys, and they actually had all these different things going on within these different societies and these different houses. It's fun to see how closely related they are. So we're at a fun point here because behind me there's actually 33 different like little areas where people would live. So they range, it could just be a small family house to actually almost a smaller city of, a bunch of different families that came together and they would build these different cliff dwellings. I thought that it's really interesting to see how they each have their own space, but they're close enough that they can communicate easily. And when you're thinking about maybe escaping to a place that's kind of fortified and up in the hillside, it's nice to have some friends around that can maybe help you if an opposing attacker is near. I thought that was something I wanted to bring up, and it's really interesting to see how they're spaced out. I'd like to bid everyone a farewell and thank you for coming and checking out this video. Hopefully you enjoyed your Mesa Verde tour. There's a lot to see here. This location is actually on the 4 points. So that's where the 4 different states, Colorado, Utah, Arizona, and New Mexico, meet in one place. In that, if you spread out a couple hundred miles, you're going to have all these different cliff dwellings, all this different Anasazi history, all this history of the native people. It's a great time. If you want to check out some other educational videos, I highly suggest it. But the biggest thing I say, until maybe I see you again, is stay interested. Be interested in something. Find something that you like and enjoy. Research it. Become a master of it. And get interested in life. I really appreciate you watching this through its entirety. That's awesome. All right, I'll leave you with that. Have a wonderful day, and I'll talk with you soon.